My plan is to become a millionaire by the time I'm 25. Dang, that actually sounds a little crazy when you say it out loud, doesn't it? But I mean, like, y'all know I'm all about that manifesting. Hi, my name is Tiffany, and you guys probably know me as Beauty and a Builder on most socials. And in today's video, I wanted to sit down, have a little chit chat, do a story time as to how I got started investing in real estate, how my journey has been so far to reach $1 million by 25, what my plans are in order to keep that momentum, and hopefully inspire you guys, whether you're interested in getting into real estate, maybe you're fresh out of high school like I was and don't know what you want to do, and this is maybe a path you want to take on, and to kind of inspire you guys and hopefully show that there are endless ways to get involved and just take that leap of faith. So let's get into the video. So in order to tell you guys my plan on how I'm going to become a millionaire by the time that I'm 25, I'm 22 right now, about to be 23, which actually we're cutting down on the timeline. I have to go back 23 years and kind of tell you guys where I came from and a little bit about my parents, because this will all come into context. Plus, I literally would not be here if it weren't for them today. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for bringing me up, educating me, giving me all of the skill sets and the tools that I need to have succeeded so far, essentially. So throwback to 23 years, my parents decided to move here from Brazil. Didn't know any English, didn't have a job, had to learn everything, climb their way up the corporate ladder. They basically hustled and tussled. And honestly, I can tell by the stories that they've told me that they really went through it. But I mean, seeing them and where they are today, I think that kind of attests to, you know, difficult moments bring you a lot of lessons in life and it helps you succeed. Now, about a year after they moved here, they had me, their daughter, Tiffany. Nice to meet you. And of course, I'm very blessed. I had the opportunity to go to school, learn English, learn how things work here, really get a grasp for the culture, and honestly wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm very blessed, very lucky to have done so. And throughout the years, my parents obviously were working. My mom ended up becoming a really successful loan officer in the Brazilian community after having worked multiple years in small little stores, fast food shops, all of the above that you can think of. And my dad went the carpenter route, painting, home remodeling, refinishing. At the time we lived in Connecticut, so there was a lot of snow landscaping that we had to do as well. Just a little bit of everything, but I think those talents and skills that they learned then kind of geared them to where they are today. Again, very successful, and graciously they passed all of that information down to me, which gave me a really great head start in my life. So I have to thank them for that. They're the best, gotta honor them. Wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie about that because, you know, to some extent we all have some privilege, and so I really have to put that out there. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it too. I just want to be very open and clear about that. Basically, the foundation that they gave me, I went out and kind of studied myself, did a lot of research. So after being all lolly jolly and basically living in Connecticut, life was good until 2008 came and my mom was a loan officer. So you can kind of anticipate how that went. They ended up deciding to move to Florida and kind of getting a fresh start down here, which is still where I live today. And honestly, now looking back on it, I think it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to them, because my dad ended up opening a flooring company and working for himself, eventually gaining lots of referrals from clients and was like booked and busy. And then my mom opened up a little Brazilian convenience store. Clearly, we just have the entrepreneurial spirit running through our veins, but I'm really glad that they did that because it kind of opened my perspective to a lot of things. And of course, me being what, 14, 15 perhaps, I was a cashier, I was a server, I would be the customer service attendant on the phone for my dad and his clients because he didn't speak English very well. So I basically took over a lot of different little tasks, and it really showed me how to hustle. And obviously me being 14 was like dreading doing all of this, but looking back on it now, it taught me so many life lessons that I couldn't have learned in school in any way possible. After a few years went by, and of course they were getting their foot back on the ground after the whole 2008 thing, I noticed that they started taking me and my brother to some random houses, and we would basically just like paint the walls, do the landscaping, plant some flowers. Like, they were really light and fun stuff. But of course I didn't get this at the time. They were buying rental properties. They were bringing us to fix them up on the weekends, and then basically they rented them out, and we're starting to build up their retirement essentially, because that's the only way that they know how to do it. So of course I grew up around more the renovation side without understanding like the technical side behind it until I started getting a little older. So fast forward to high school, and of course I saw what they were doing. They were about maybe like 3 rental properties in, 3, 4, I'm not sure. And we had done that. I knew my mom was buying them at auctions for really good prices. I didn't really know the market at the time. I was just kind of like tagging along. We were still doing renovations. I've hung up cabinets at this point. Like, we did the whole shebang. And of course, very blessed to have had that, because of course it taught me a lot, and it kind of gave me that head start where I am today. and being a real estate investor myself. I'm 22 and that's absolutely insane to say. So after becoming obsessed with tiny houses, working with my parents for the next 3 years until I graduated high school, I finally saved up enough money to buy the trailer for the tiny house. Now, originally my mindset for it was coming from an investor standpoint, and I wanted to build a tiny house. I know it's a vehicle, but to resell it. So basically I would have built it and sold it, hopefully for a profit, to kind of get some money to start investing in real estate. Now, this tiny house took us 3 years to build. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally. And after probably about a few months in of our build, I was like, yeah, there's absolutely no way that I'm selling this. I'm not renting it. Like, this is gonna be my house, because I was making every little detail tailored to me. And of course, like, when you put that much love and effort into it, and of course my dad, my cousins, my family, basically everyone helped on this build. I would never have the heart to pass it along. So she's gonna be mine forever, and I'm gonna keep her wherever I go. But I think it really taught me a lot of skills in terms of building, renovating. I mean, just looking around, we're in the tiny house right now, learn how to install windows, we learn how to do plumbing, we learn how to do electrical, literally any step that there is to building a house, except maybe the foundation, because the foundation is a trailer. And so funny enough, even though the tiny house was meant to be like sort of a flip and for me to have my first real estate investment, during that build I ended up buying my first piece of property, actual real estate, not just a vehicle. And we had paid about $12K for this property that was worth $20. I basically sat on it for a few months, didn't really think much of it, until I ended up finding another video on TikTok talking about buying used mobile homes for like 10K, 12K. I already have the property. Like, I wonder if I can put a used mobile home on there and see what could happen. Maybe I could like flip it or something, you know? And so that's exactly what I did. I started researching used mobile homes on Facebook Marketplace, and the mobile home that I ended up finding was a 2002 single wide mobile home, which once I went to go look at it, it was, I mean, it had water damage, the flooring was coming up. Took my dad to go see it. I FaceTimed him, I showed him the property. I said, is this too big of a project? Because this doesn't look like the ones that you guys took us to flip when I was like, what, 14? He was always the more realistic one. And then my mom said, no, let's do it. Now I had to figure out how to get permits, how to do the move for this thing, how to basically coordinate and hire people, and also do the renovation inside, because we went from building a tiny house, which is 160 square feet, to now remodeling a 1,200 square foot single wide mobile home, which is huge. Now, this was also going to cost me a pretty penny. At the time, I was still working a couple of jobs, so thankfully I was saving up a lot of money, doing a little bit of the work, saving up a little more, doing a little bit more. Somehow I made it work, and I got my family on board again. Very grateful for them. They helped me remodel this thing with a little bit of muscle, some YouTube videos, you know, hiring people out for the stuff that we didn't know how to do. And after about a year's timeline of buying the mobile home and finishing it, septic tank installed, well, everything, the whole shebang, permit closed. She was ready to go on the market, and this is right after COVID hit. So the market had spiked during COVID and everything was really expensive. And then right after it started dipping. So the resale price was about $150. I was probably all in about $50K over a year of saving up and spending all of that. And I did not go out for this year. I literally, like, every single penny that I had earned was going towards this property, and the tiny house was on hold at this point as well. And so we finished, and then we put it on the market. We got a full price offer, which is crazy to me. And then they realized that they couldn't get financing for it because of the mobile home being used. It's been moved twice. You know, there's certain restrictions that the banks don't finance, unfortunately. And then I started learning about that whole process, which I can make a video on that if you guys want. Let me know in the comments. It was basically like so many other little rules and things that I hadn't even considered. And I said, well, I don't think anyone's gonna have 150K cash to buy this. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, I don't know. But I also saw that the market rent was about $1,400 a month. So I said, well, why don't I just rent it out? Because it's already paid off. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And so that's exactly what I did. We rented it out. Everything worked out. We were lolly jolly. Now I was back on the tiny house grind, basically saving up every penny I got from that, plus my jobs, to basically rush and finish the tiny house so that I could start living in it. But in the back of my head, I knew that I wanted to do another project, because at this point the mobile home was done. She was complete. She was making passive income. We had the tiny house that we were still building slowly but surely. And I was like, I really want to buy another house. But again, I was probably, what, 19 at this point. Still don't have 2 years of income taxes. I'm self-employed. Situation wasn't looking too good. So the sellers accepted our offer on this property, and I think the nervousness set in, and it's always been like this on every property. We had a long list of homework. This was the worst house I'd ever gotten in the condition that it was in. We had to basically remodel the whole thing, bring it down to the studs. We had to repaint, drywall, knock down the kitchens, rebuild a laundry room. Like, the list was endless. This was probably like my third or fourth deal because we had done some in between this times with partners and things like that. So this is definitely the worst. And I knew that I couldn't do most of the work myself. As you guys know, I love to do the renovations, painting, literally anything that I can do. I like to put my hands on it. But I knew that I couldn't for this, because that was a lot of man muscle that needed to be done. I mean, we were replacing subfloor. We had to replace some of the joists underneath. They were pretty good, but I did want to reinforce the house to make sure we weren't going to have any problems ever. And the house is old. She's like 1960. House is like 80 years old. That's crazy. That's like quadruple my age. But she's still hanging in there. And of course, like, the older houses are usually built a little better. Of course, there was a big budget for this project because there was a lot that needed to be done. And wherever I could hop in and do some of the work to hopefully minimize that, I did. So installing lighting fixtures, painting the walls, installing the backsplash. I mean, there was a lot of little things that I did, but still the majority I did hire out. And I didn't realize it until we were done. But this project, which was the worst of them all, took us probably about 6 months to complete, which was really fast. Coordination was on point, team was on point. I mean, I had everything like listed out, budgeted. We did go a little bit over budget, but that's because more of like the infrastructure for the tiny house and stuff to have been put on the property as well. Overall, this project was so successful. And of course, now we rent it out to our tenants who live kind of like as our neighbors. They're such sweethearts. They came over for dinner the other day. We love them to death. And so it's just been a really great opportunity. This is probably the biggest lesson that I've had in terms of the renovation remodel process, coordinating projects, people to work, and just kind of learning the ins and outs of doing a deal, not only from the financing standpoint, also to being able to find a good deal, analyze a good deal to where we would have a big profit, coordinating the team to come in and renovate the house, and then of course having an exit strategy for it. So in this case, we were renting it. There was no way we were going to flip it because our point was to live here. So after having done everything and the property was all settled, we have passive income coming in, our living expenses are quite low, everything just kind of clicked into place. And I was really confident in myself, and I was almost a little addicted to analyzing deals. And so we finished the property probably in August of 2024, probably 2 months after we finished that, rented it out. That stress kind of like leaves your body because now everything is working the way it should. We don't have any more repairs, like the tenants are good, everything works, we've tested it out. After 2 months, I started getting the itch again, and I started analyzing more deals, which shouldn't have been doing that, but I ended up stumbling across probably I'm not gonna say the best deal because like every deal is a little different, but one of the best deals I've ever seen in my life. It was a brand new construction house. Nothing was wrong with it. It was impeccable, brand new, had solar, like state of the art, everything. I mean, it was a nice house, but it was going up to auction. So in my mind, I thought, the seasoned investors are going to scoop this one up really good for a great price. And, I'm like out of the competition already, until that's not really what happened. So this has been my journey so far, investing in real estate, learning how to do it, taking literally every creative avenue possible with no capital, investing in different ways, house hacking, literally all of the above. And I've also done so much more research on other niches as well. And so I think my goal for 2025 and kind of just moving forward to increase my capital, basically I'm going to focus on flipping properties. And I recently learned that you can finance deals with a really low down payment to start off with, because most of my money is tied into the assets that I already have. So I have to get a little creative with the financing. I'm going to be partnering up with some friends of mine to do some deals, which I think will really help me boost up the capital to get my foot back on the ground. I will definitely have contractors this time around, just because we're going to be financing. So we have to get the deal done as fast as possible. And I think for this year, the goal is kind of to do 2 to 3 deals, of course, if that's all that I can handle. Plus, I'm going to be sharing all of it with you guys, because I've grown such a great, honest, community on here of people who are interested in this kind of thing, who also want to invest in real estate creatively, who are maybe young or don't know where to start, or maybe you don't want to take high risk. And I think having experienced all of that in the past, and that's why I wanted to make this video. It's really taught me to be creative with what you have and also to take different avenues. You know, there's so many options out there, and I know that you can make it happen. It just depends as to how much you want to make it happen, and obviously the risk tolerance, and there's so many things that go into it. So I think moving forward, I really want to be very present in the projects that I'm working on, really putting a lot of, not necessarily time, but a lot of dedication to make sure that they are the best that they could possibly be, obviously for resale value, but also to be able to share the whole process with you guys. That way we can both learn together. And of course, you're more than welcome to comment any questions you have about anything I said. I know this was a very back and forth video, but I really wanted to do like a little sit down chit chat, because I know a lot of people don't really know too much about me, where I came from, how I started. And I think so far with what I've done, I love where I live. I love everything that we have going on. I don't need much more. We live very simply. And I think moving forward, my projects are going to be very targeted, like I said, to partner up with other people that might need some help, or doing affordable housing, like tiny house projects and things like that, which is something that I'm like dying to do. Of course, that's going to take like a lot more high risk, high capital. So I do have to get my foot on the ground. And basically that's the whole reason for wanting to flip 2 to 3 houses this year in 2025. So hopefully this video was a little inspirational, kind of just showing you guys that there's tons of different options as to how you can go about things, how things work. Sometimes they go sideways and then they come back, and just knowing that in the end, everything is going to work out.